everybody. Hopefully you can hear me this time. I know yesterday I tried to come on for the beginning of the first Influencer Academy audio difficulties. So if you have audio difficulties throughout this, whether it's me right now or anyone else you're listening to, including our host, David Herman, who's been kind enough to join us today, just refresh your browser, but it looks like everybody can hear. So I'm just going to get us started real quick. I want to say what I said yesterday one more time because I think it's really important. And I want to start with a huge thank you for the response from the entire community of creative, social, content, storytelling professionals that work in college and pro sports. It's unreal. I had 3 calls this morning with athletic directors, including Bubba Cunningham at North Carolina, who is just like watching this unfold and seeing we have 500 registrants, and so encouraged to hear that folks who work in these departments are that keen on using this time to let their brains catch up with their bodies. You know, we all want to get better, but we're so busy, it's hard for us to do that. So really want to thank you for that. Influencer exists to serve storytellers. Like, that is our purpose statement. That's why we exist as a brand. And so often the storytellers we talk about serving are 20,000 plus athletes that are users on the influencer app, grabbing content, sharing it, building their brand. But you're storytellers that we serve as well, whether you're a partner of ours or not. There's more than 1,000 folks who work in sports that are on our platform, and they want to get better. And so I pushed Nita Srikanth, who's our COO, on coming up with a way we could serve you during this time. And Nita's one of you, right? She comes from your community. She ran social for the Cowboys and for ESPN. She ran social for several of their properties, including Monday Night Football. And many of you already have relationships with her. And last year I started recruiting Nita because I want to make sure that everything we do is either serving our athletes or serving you, so that together we can be the new media broadcasting that is where the eyeballs are, and do it with just as much or more excellence as the folks on the traditional media side do it. And that's what's happening. So you being here is part of that movement. Nita coming up with the Academy and our team rallying together to engage with experts like David, who's joining us today, and the other experts who are going to be joining us throughout the next few weeks is magic. And so I just want to let the magic happen. That's it. I'm going to stop. But I really appreciate you being dedicated to honing your skills and sharpening your tools. And I hope that you get value out of this. So with that, I'll hand it to Nita.
Session 2. David Herman, happy to have you here. I want to get going on this, so I'll speed through this. Hope everyone found yesterday's session with Dan beneficial. And I hope everyone is being safe right now. All your loved ones are in this wild time we're in, practicing safe, healthy protocols to make sure that we're all washing our hands, not touching our face. You might see me touch my face during this, like just there. Just know that I'm not trying to do that. But anyways, Influencer Academy was created with one goal in mind: for the community of leaders that want to get better at their craft during this impacted time we're in. We want to highlight some of the best that the sports industry has to offer, and impart their wisdom to you. And David Herman, we're happy to have you here to kind of run through some of the case studies and examples of some of the things that you and Twitter have been working on. So I'm excited to get to what you have to share with us. Some quick housekeeping. For those of you that are unaware, we have a bunch of sessions up on our site. Go there, sign up. We're here to serve storytellers, and we want to make sure that during this time that we're here to help you raise your bar. So whenever sports comes back, the bar will be raised across all facets, including the content you are creating for the 20,000 athletes that currently serve us. And even if you aren't necessarily a client of ours or you're just part of the community, we want to help raise the bar across the board. And if you can't attend these sessions, they're all going to be available for you to view after we're done on our blog, YouTube, and social. Yesterday's session with Dan is going to be up by the end of the day today. So follow us on social for up-to-date information. And we also want each of you to be able to network throughout this. So please post your Twitter, a link to your Twitter in the chat. Nikki from our marketing team is going to be compiling them all together into a Google Doc, and we'll share it with you at the end of the session, so you all can network and get to know each other and follow each other and see what you're all up to during this period. And at the same time, ask questions as David's going through some of the things that he's going to be sharing and discussing. I'm going to help moderate with him some of the questions that you might have. Be sure to put it in the questions tab, not the chat tab, in the event that it gets lost in the sea of incoming networking links that are popping through here. And with that, David, sorry for the technical difficulties to got this thing going, but I'm handing it off to you.
All good. Hopefully everyone can hear me. Maybe a thumbs up in the chat, just in case. Oops. Hold on. Audio good? Someone just want to confirm in the chat.
Looks like we're all good there.
Perfect. Alrighty. Well, thanks, Nita, and thanks to the influencer crew for having me. So I'm gonna start off with just, or I guess should introduce myself for those who I haven't met or haven't spoke with at some point, but David Herman, one member of our Twitter sports partnerships team, based out of New York usually, though not at the moment, as we are all working from home. So I'm gonna do a quick run through, quick little presentation of a couple tools that really want to spend the bulk of time going through questions, if that's okay with you. I already see one in there, so feel free to dump a bunch of questions in, and we'll get through as many as we can. So let me just share my screen. Hopefully this will work. Alrighty. Hopefully folks can share my screen or see my screen. Let's see, anyone else or anyone just confirm the screen view in the chat? Perfect, alrighty. Well, here we go. So, so a couple of things actually before I jump in. A quick background on how our team works, who we are at Twitter, and what we're here for. Well, our team is a group of 8 or 9 folks in the US who focus on all things sports. And so what's unique about us is we aren't content publishers like you all. We are here to be a resource for you all on a number of different fronts. One, content monetization. We work with a ton of partners across the country specifically, but our group across the globe, working to get amazing video on Twitter, which then has pre-roll ads in front of it through a number of different programs. Secondary, or second to that, not secondary at all, but second to that, we're here as a resource for you as organic publishers of content on Twitter. Best practices, support, product updates, research, answering questions, just being available as someone who's Twitter who can help you all. Our DMs my DMs are always open, David B. Herman. My email I'll put up at the end, but please don't hesitate to reach out as you guys have different things. We're here to be a resource and here to make sure you, your student athletes, if you're on the pro side, whoever it may be, feel supported on Twitter, and to make sure you're getting the most out of your Twitter experience from a brand perspective. So obviously these are crazy times, and just wanted to start off with a quick note about what we're doing at Twitter to help spread credible information and everything to do with encouraging folks to stay home. As you've probably seen at the top of your timeline, we have 2 things that are pinned for every user globally in a ton of different languages as well. A first tab of just news and updates and a moment that is being updated consistently. And then of course, all things related to Do the 5, the WHO's and CDC's guidelines around what we can all do to stay healthy. And the reason I bring this up is because for those of you who may have joined our virtual tweet up the other night, I feel it's really important that all of our accounts, we reach a ton of people, and so many are doing amazing things already to help spread that credible information and the information that we can help kind of flatten the curve and get back to normal about this, and making sure we're all thinking about what we can do in this time to help get information to our followers as consistently as we can. But I always like starting off with kind of what I call a tweet of the week, something that I see that really is awesome. And this was one from last night. Everyone's getting creative right now. I think positive, not that there is one thing you can look to as kind of a positive outcome of this is the creativity that so many are having to kind of push around content in our space, but across the globe in their own businesses and figuring things out as we go here. And so many amazing accounts, or so many folks have been doing amazing things across a ton of accounts. And one of those last I thought was awesome. The Pirates quote the original tweet down at the bottom from October 2013 was before Twitter had video. And so they're going through kind of some big moments in Pirates history, bringing back the video and letting people converse just like there would have, just like, oh, not as much of a replication of what it would have been. There's no way to do that, but at least give folks a chance to relive an amazing moment where before on Twitter wasn't really the same. So I just love this tweet last night. I thought it was a good, fun, creative execution to get fans talking. We'll share a little bit, or I'll share a little bit more about the end of kind of a new I've been doing to get examples during this time out there, but just wanted to share that. So what I'm going to talk through next, and again, if you have questions, I should have put them in the questions tab, not the chat, because that's where I'm going to hang out, and go through a couple just general Twitter content publishing best practices, where to find resources, and then we can take some questions from there. So my screen will load. One second. Give me 1 second here. I'm not sure why that image isn't popping up. Do a quick refresh. Here we go. I'm going to stay in this, well, let's try full screen. That doesn't work. We will stay. There we go. All right. All good. So one thing I want to bring up off the bat is a resource that I feel like gets overlooked a lot. Folks don't exist, but it's a website called media.twitter.com. This is a space uploaded and updated by one of our teams who we work closely as a resource for all things content publishing. There are examples by vertical as you go at the bottom. There's a tab for products up at the top, which has links and guides to all of the products I'll be talking about today, as well as many others. So if there's anything you take away from today, know that this site is an amazing resource of examples, best practices, case studies, product explanations, user guides, all sorts of things. Media.twitter.com, and I'll be referencing it a few times throughout. First is Media Studio. Want to make sure that everyone is aware of Media Studio, how it works and what it is. And if you're not available, if you don't have this on your account, we'll go through, I'm going to talk about the last slide at the end of how to request some of these features from me if you don't have them, to do it in an orderly and organized fashion. So we'll get there at the end. But Media Studio is our content publishing library. You can get to it simply from going to studio.twitter.com when you're logged into your account. There are a couple things that happen here. As you can see in the tabs on the top, there's a content library where you can drop content into, tweet from, and kind of accessing and tweeting all of your content, GIFs, videos, and images. The producer tab at the top is about live content. We'll talk about that. There's to monetization programs if you're in one of those, analytics, scheduled tweets, and insights, which is a new tab we have that I highly recommend you take a look at. It has things that help you understand what is the timing of when my follower base is most active on the platform on the platform engaging with my content. Other learnings that you can get related specifically to your follower base and how they're interacting with your content. It's a really awesome tool. Media Studio is where a lot of our features are going to be built and are built. So things that are available here are not as available just if you're publishing content straight from your mobile device or even the web app. For example, if you're whitelisted for 10-minute video, which we'll talk about also, the only way to really do that correctly is through Media Studio. If you try and do it through mobile web, it's not going to work as well. So Media Studio is a hub of content. It's where a ton of our new features are being built. And again, something we'll talk about how to request if you don't have here in a bit. Moving forward to Media Studio, I mentioned the producer tab at the top, but we get this question a lot of what is the best way to go live on Twitter from a content perspective for brands? And there's really 3 different ways. Producer, if you have an encoder or going live through some type of professional streaming mechanism. When I say professional, I just mean kind of an encoder or set up camera. And so you can insert encoder streams, RTMP or HLS. You can schedule streams out in advance. You can have a ton of things going on via the producer tab in Studio. A lot to dig in there. And again, media.twitter.com has an entire kind of dedicated section related to producer and Media Studio. The other is our Pro Media API. Not going to be super relevant for this group, but if you have kind of larger, more traditional television studios or setups as part of your programs, the Pro Media API could be something to look into. It really allows you to plug and use the Twitter API in your already existing kind of premium setups to get and push content to Twitter. And then mobile, always still available to go live on mobile by clicking tweet, click the camera icon, and then just you'll see the live on the live button on the bottom right. Excuse me. So live content is just one way to get content on Twitter. I get asked a lot. Do you recommend live? Do you recommend regular VOD? What's the benefit of each? I really look at it as more of a kind of each of these as a tool in the toolbox, right? If you think of a toolbox with all your Twitter tools or your options in there, all of these are just one way to accomplish the goal. And the best timelines and the best Twitter accounts are using as many of the tools in that bucket as possible. And so live to me, again, it is Twitter moves quickly. So if you're going live on Twitter, unless it's something really, really captivating, it's not often going to draw insane amounts of viewers. But if you get your followers on regular cadences, say press conferences, announcements each week, whatever it may be, it can become a dedicated space for users and followers where they know, okay, I can get this content here live at this time on a recurring basis. So I think about live in 2 ways. One, recurring live broadcast that you can have just as you would stream to your website, Facebook Watch, YouTube, whatever it may be, just as a landing space for it. If you're doing and streaming to other platforms through encoders, it's really, really easy to also pop that on Twitter. I then look at live secondarily as when there are moments you cannot capture in kind of a traditional sense, meaning they happen so quickly. I always recommend at least popping live up in the phone to give your fans an experience like they're being there. It's really simple. We're seeing people do it all over the place right now. But know that live on mobile is available. It is a content resource. You can always go back and access once the broadcast is ended, clip and cut from that live broadcast, which we'll talk about in a minute also. So just wanted to spend a couple seconds talking about live. It is available. It's a tool in the box. One at that.
Hey, David, have you seen anyone in the college space really succeed at the live platform?
Yeah, I think it's a good question, and it's trickier in college than any other space. There's no question about that. We see most kind of Power 5, maybe not most, a significant portion of Power 5 schools, put their press conferences and post-game kind of those recurring broadcasts that I mentioned. on Twitter, and there's a lot. Again, most of the Power 5 schools will do that in some capacity, especially as it relates to football and basketball. Bigger sports, of course, more resources. We know that it's easier for those programs because they have more people versus many sports or many programs who have one person operating for 10 sports. So I would say in the college space, the most of the live we see is around those kind of event-based versus moment-based of just pulling out the phone and going live after a broadcast or after a game ends or something on the field. With that being said, I don't have as much insight all of the accounts and all of the folks on here, so I'll use partners that this year during the college football playoff, both LSU and Clemson went live consistently on Twitter, practices, media days, entering the stadiums, locker room tours, leaving the stadiums. A ton of really good examples of just trying to get the fans closer to the events that are happening. So long answer to your question, we're seeing a ton of people do the or the kind of more set up live broadcast, less folks do the one-off, just pop and go live in the college space that we do in the pro space.
So how many people from a resource standpoint go into getting one of those off the ground? Because most of the people that are probably on here don't have the resources of an LSU or a Clemson or Ohio State. So is it 2 people? One person's shooting, one person's handling the tech?
Yeah.
What kind of resources are needed for this?
Yeah, really it can be done with 0 people if your setup is done correctly. Meaning if you have a camera that you're operating in a press conference room, for example, and it's something you've set up in advance, you know relatively the time frame of when a press conference is starting, you can have that all pre-set up and done beforehand to only have to flip the switch to turn on. So I look at live, if it's, again, there's a learning curve. Once you're able to learn a little bit how it works, dive into the resources, get familiar with a streaming product or an encoder, it really can be a one-person max job. Of course, it does take setup time, but because of producer and scheduled broadcasts, those things really can be done in advance. It doesn't have to be looked at as an incredible time suck, other than actually flipping the switch to go live, which of course is easier said than done when there are a million things going on, and we realize that. But there are definitely ways to reduce the setup time, reduce the manpower needed, set up in advance, so that when things are ready, all you have to do is flip the switch.
Cool.
So this screen here is a newer product for us. It's called Live Cut in Producer. And once you have a broadcast that is live, whether you're initiating that from your phone, media studio producer, or another source, it's going to pop up in this Live Cut tab within the media studio in the producer section. It allows you to clip VOD segments from a live broadcast, whether it's live at the moment or once it's ended. So to be able to pull clips from live content, think oppressor, think whatever it may be, you don't have to go to your video teams or someone else to request that. If you as a social manager, or you as someone who wants to get stuff or get content out quickly and you already have access to the stream, this is a great way to do it. You can clip, for those who have used Snappy TV in the past, this is replacing Snappy TV, or has replaced Snappy TV from a clipping perspective. And is a great way to clip content, again, both live in the moment as well as live broadcasts that have ended. Think about it this way. If there's a press conference or a moment that you've had streamed and a week later something becomes really relevant from that press conference, one thing a coach said, an update to a player, his opinion on something, whatever it may be, and you want to repost that content, you don't necessarily want to repost the full 35-minute conference, but you may want to go in and clip that segment that's relevant and tweet that out. This is a tool that houses, again, all of your things that are live, all of your things that are ended, and you can go in and clip at any time. And as you guys all know, Twitter is a real-time platform and thrives on information getting out there quickly. This tool hopefully makes it easier for you to get content out quicker from streams that you've created. So Live Cut and Producer, again, media.twitter.com has a full section, full segment on this, how to use it, what it's for, examples, all of that fun stuff. I just wanted to highlight it briefly. I
Got a couple
see.
of questions
Yeah.
coming in, Dave. So first one's from Grant. Any update on sharing live cut streams to other accounts?
Yep. Thanks for the question, Grant. I know we've talked about this a bunch, and yes, there are some updates. I've seen the product brief of what this is going to look like. It's still a little bit away, but there is going to be a product available for you all to say if your one account, we'll use in Grant's case, WBU Athletics, has all of the streams housed and their setup is in that one account, be able to share individual streams with other accounts so they can use this product and clip without having to go through and type all the details in themselves. So we're working on it. There's progress being made, which is good, but nothing quite there yet.
Another question coming in. David, will Twitter ever bring back the .apng or the ability to add multiple videos to a single post? This is from Lyle.
Yeah, not that I've seen on the roadmap at the moment. Multiple videos to a single post. That when that was available and that hack was available for a brief time, the data showed that those posts actually did not perform super well from an engagement standpoint. So it was never prioritized from a product standpoint, and I don't expect it to be moving forward. So I don't expect multiple videos to be an option anytime soon. But things can always change. But at the moment, I wouldn't expect that to be out.
Awesome. And is there a way to save a stream longer than 10 minutes?
Yes. So streaming, it's a great question. Streams are kind of the only way to really get content longer than 10 minutes on the platform. There's actually no length limit. If you're streaming through something through an encoder, pushing it to this producer and operating that way, you can go live as long as you need to. More than 24 hours, I've heard, and we have had people who've done 24-hour streams before, but more than 24 hours, I've heard gets crazy. But if you've seen a ton of folks recently doing re-airs, NASCAR's doing one daily, the NBA is doing every night right now. What they're doing is taking a full video of a game and restreaming it through producer. It is really the only way to get longer video on Twitter, and it's a great way to do it. And we're actually working on some collateral right now to very specifically explain how to, if you have not a current live event, but I call it fake live, right? An event you want to restream or re-air or take again from a VOD source and get it into an encoder and put it through producer and studio. We're working on some collateral right now to be able to explain that more easily.
A couple more questions coming in, David, from Kevin. Would you ever add a feature to allow a mass message? We'd love to be able to send a message to a group without the members of that group being able to see each other.
If I'm following correctly, Kevin, I guess if you can follow up with that. Are you speaking within the live broadcast environment or just a message to a specific group of followers of yours? If you pop one back in, a follow-up question, I might be able to answer that better. Grant, we'll get your question real quick. Tag individuals on videos other than the current workaround. This we've requested from product a million times, and we've been told is being worked on. I haven't seen anything specifically. That workaround is there. For those who don't know it, the workaround is start a tweet, put a photo in the tweet, tag people, then delete the photo, put the video in, and then actually tweet it out. Those tags will remain. It's a very weird little buggy thing. But that exists at the moment, though. Nothing imminent outside of that. And then Kevin, your follow-up, a message to a specific group of followers. It's a great question, and I would say nothing at the moment, though. There are some things we are testing out that may address this in the coming months, but nothing at the moment that would allow you to target a specific group of followers, a specific kind of subset of your followers in that way. get most of the questions there for now.
Some of the other ones we'll save for the end.
Okay, great. So let me advance this slide here. So always a question I get is video specs. What are the video specs for Twitter? What should be doing? And note that these all come from help.twitter.com. There's a full page and a half on video specifications. So if you go there and search video or file size and type, you'll see this come up. Some key things to remember: max file size is 1 gig. Type MP4 or .mov. Resolution recommendations, encoding recommendations, especially for subtitles, and frame rate, super important. But wanted to bring these up because I get questions a lot on why do my Twitter videos look blurry at the beginning or take a long time to buffer compared to other platforms or other posts, or the inconsistency around that. And most often it is tracked back to something in the specs being off. With that being said, the way Twitter works as an app is wherever you are, service-based, but also how much data you're using within the Twitter app, how many pieces of media are loading at any one time, how much content is actually fulfilling on your timeline at any given time, are all going to affect how videos look. So when I watch or click on a tweet and you click on a tweet, and we both are in the same place with the same Wi-Fi looking at those videos, there could be differences in the quality of those videos. There's a lot, again, going in the background on each of our apps, as well as on our phones generally, that affect this in some ways more than other platforms. So keep in mind that specs are important. There still could be some buffering issues or buffering delay involved, but the more you're adhering to these, the less likely those buffering issues are to be present. Oops. The next couple, wait, do some questions?
Nope.
Okay. The next couple slides are tools that I'm going to talk about. So for any of the tools that I'm talking about right now, as well as Media Studio, if your accounts don't have access, please send me an email, dherman@twitter.com, with a full list of handles and the features you would request access to. Way easier for me if we do that in bulk at one time, meaning all of your accounts at once versus just one account here or there. So please send me that email and we'll be happy to whitelist your accounts for any of these features. Conversational video cards. This one has been around a while, but basically what it allows you to do is have a tweet with a card feature that has this tweet button built in. So you have control over, of course, the tweet copy, the video, the tagline under the video, the hashtag that goes in that button, as well as when you click on that button, the screen on the right, this pre-populated tweet copy that comes up for users. This tool is really awesome for helping to spread a message, get a campaign going, get users tweeting. If I were to tweet this whole experience now lives on my profile, my timeline, for my followers to engage with as well. It's kind of like a ripple effect tool. So the conversational card unit can have up to 4 of these hashtag tweet options. It's not a voting card. It's not going to show you a number, but they can be customized, and you can, of course, track hashtag usage outside of that. I love the conversational video card, again, is because it entices users to click, to do something, to tweet out, and it can really help spread a message consistently across platform. You can use an image. This is a video here in this card, but there is a conversational image card as well. Again, this is a really great tool. The setup is a little bit complicated. Again, there's some resources in media.twitter.com. But also happy to send specific user guides as well if anyone has questions. It's a really fantastic tool. A little bit different, the website video card. Twitter has played around with a number of different things to help push to a web card. This is my favorite. and I think this tweet was from yesterday actually, but this is a video where you can see this little purple box to indicate that there's a link here. When you click on this video, what happens is the screen on the right. The video moves up while still playing, and the mobile web page that you've linked to appears at the bottom. You're still within the Twitter app, you haven't left the ecosystem, and your video is still playing. We know that videos drive increased engagement on Twitter. So the hypothesis with this tool is that a video is more likely to draw a click compared to other types of posts. Why not combine video with the option to move and click through to a web destination that you own? This is a great tool for ticket sales. It's getting people to land on page that can help you get leads for ticket sales or other information of that sort. And it's really, really been a fantastic tool for a lot of folks. Again, using that video to draw people in. Some people have even getting really creative and having direct call to action at the end or the beginning of a video to signal, like click here, to really drive the point home. But again, it's a great tool and really seamless. It looks good in the timeline as well. Media forward polls. This one's pretty straightforward. The polling feature that we all love, but instead of just photos, you can have a video. Is a little bit different. The setup lives within the ads dashboard. You don't have to put money. There's no, you don't have to actually be running ads to use this tool, but the setup is a little different. But know that media forward polls do exist. They're a great tool. Again, media drives, especially video, drives more engagement. And again, having a poll or a reason for a user to click is always a positive thing. Before I really stop for questions and dive in on any other topics we want to chat about, one thing I wanted to leave you all with that some of you may have heard me talk about before, but I think really important to think about from an engagement perspective on Twitter, as you all producers of media specifically think about how to program your accounts. On Twitter, there are 3 types of engagements, right? There's the comment, there's the retweet, and there's the like. Each of those actually has some correlations to type of media on the platform. So we know, for example, GIFs in comparison to photos and videos actually result in more direct engagement from a comment perspective. So if you have a post and your goal is to get as many people commenting, literally comment, replying to your tweet as possible, we know all platforms that GIFs actually accomplish that better than photos and videos. On the other hand, if the goal is to share content, retweet button, get users sharing and expanding that content, we know videos are what drive the most retweets on a per post basis. Whereas likes, again, no surprise, are more for photos, an acknowledgement of content. Very much like on Instagram as well, right? A strong image elicits a double tap. It takes a lot more to elicit a response or a comment in the thread. Thinking about those 3 buckets of engagement can actually be really, really helpful when planning content and the goals of each post. And something we're doing a lot more research on to dig in on kind of new and updated suggestions for you all to have around what engagement looks like, how to break up engagement, how to plan posts based on kind of engagements and thoughts. So those are some of our, again, not all of them are super new, but from a video perspective, those are the tools that really, if you're thinking about what's in your toolbox of tools to use, are really, really strong when it comes to media and video. And again, accounts, I call it timeline diversity. The more diversity your Twitter feed has from a tooling perspective, the more your followers will likely stay engaged. They know it's not the same program channel every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. They're seeing different things. They're seeing different tools. They're seeing media presented to them in different ways. So a great way to do it. Looks like we have a few more questions. Aaron, great question. The video website card setup is through the ads manager, not in Media Studio. Again, there's no spend or budget required, but the setup is within the ads dashboard at ads.twitter.com.
Hey, David, a couple questions. On the Twitter algorithm, what are some scoring or keys to success in order to get your content appear in the top tweets first for those that have that enabled?
Yeah, it's a combination of a few things, and there's no general rule of thumb here because it's going to be different for every user. The top tweets functionality is really let me phrase it this way. The algorithm learns a lot from each user's behavior as what tweets should be put in the top tweets section. It's less about what Twitter is defining as the top tweets, more about the top tweets in the context of what that user engages with. So what I would tell you to answer that question is twofold. The more your followers are engaging with your content regularly, the more likely they are to see top tweets or what they've missed tweets be from your accounts. It really starts with that engagement on the personal user to account level. Secondarily, there are components of the algorithm that are looking for what were the key beats in the last, I don't know, let's just say 24 hours that users should know about, and what accounts are tweeting relative or tweeting that is involved in that account. So I don't know, we don't have any games going on right now, but let's just say there was a basketball game going on tonight for your program, content around that event. Twitter is going to know that your account is probably one of the best sources of content from that event, which had some conversation spikes and peaks to it. So that is another way to assign. Again, it's very individualized, so there isn't a direct kind of, here are the three things that I would do to kind of increase the chances. But no, the more an individual user is engaging with your content, the more likely it is that your tweets are going to start appearing in some of those search mechanisms or algorithmic kind of places than otherwise.
Question from Mark. Can you shed some light on hash flags?
Yes. So hash flags, otherwise known as emojis, are always a fun subject. Emojis are still technically a sales tool at Twitter. Excuse me. They are for brands to think, when movies are launching, when a Coke is launching a new product, for brands to have a visual representation with a hashtag, and they are sold for significant sums of money on the Twitter sales side. I have the ability to launch emojis for very specific purposes around large events. So that's why you see us do this with most schools around Final Four, college football playoff. You may ask, well, why does an NFL or NBA team have an emoji and I don't? We have larger league deals that include revenue components with all of the major sports leagues where these things are actually included. So it is by no means us picking favorites of who we're giving them to and who we're not. There are actual deal components involved of where these things are coming up. So from a college perspective, we'll not be in a place anytime soon to give these to everyone. They will remain as part of larger events. We're getting better about making sure we can do things outside of just football and basketball. It's one of our goals for 2020. We have to get approval on these things also. So hopefully we'll be able to start working with more of you around more championships and other events than we have in the past. But they still are a fairly restrictive tool. And on the sales side, just for some context, traditionally things aren't unlocked on the emoji front if a spend is less than $250,000. So there's a pretty high threshold there. So it's a tool that's still pretty closely regulated, but we're hopefully going to have some more ability to get them involved or get them out there and involved in different events soon.
Another one. Can you talk a little bit about the searching and scraping formats that you currently have?
Yeah, so I'm gonna, and I assume, correct me if I'm wrong here, we're talking about looking specifically for old tweets or things that may be problematic. So there's a huge update that we just launched about a week ago, actually. If you go in your settings and go to your account settings, in the past, you clicked on your Twitter archive. It would work 50% of the time, and it would give you like some jumbled format Excel doc that had some code in it that you have to decode to then access your archive. It was a mess. We actually just launched about a week ago a fully HTML-based archive, so where you can actually get all your tweet data and actually see what has happened on your account since inception. And there's some limitations within that, but it's so much better than it was. Yes, it still requires each individual account to do that. So if you're working with your student athletes and want to help them scroll through their accounts, you still have to sit with them and have them do this, and then you can help them analyze it, of course. There's no way to do it yet for other account for security reasons and privacy reasons, of course. It's a huge step forward, and I can send some more info on how to do that if anyone needs. The other thing that I would recommend is Twitter Advanced Search. It's actually kind of annoyingly hard to get to. The best way to do it is actually Google Twitter Advanced Search, which is weird, but that's what I do when I go use it. You can put in an account name and then a list of keywords. There's a ton of just easily Googleable lists of not safe for work keywords, where if you're searching for, okay, I want to do an advanced search and search the account at David B. Herman for this list of not safe for work terms, in any tweet that has those terms within that search query should come up. So advanced search is another great way to do searching and scraping specifically for tweets that you're looking for words that are going to be a problem. More difficult if it's media or a video, image, GIF that is the problem. That's harder to search for, and really no great way to do that right now. But between the new archive download and Twitter Advanced Search, those are the two ways that I suggest. Really do not recommend using a ton of random third parties where you have to put in your password and account information and they'll scrub your account for you, unless it's part of a trusted source. So, if you use kind of any third party data tool and they have an option within that, that's one thing. But any of the specific scrubbing sites, I wouldn't recommend just from a security. You never want to log into some of those third parties unless you really know what it is. A lot of them, unfortunately, just hard to know whether they're real or not.
Next question, and this is from Sean Merriman. What are some key points to share with the brand that has only been a part of traditional linear TV sponsorships but wants to innovate and understand the value of Twitter? This sounds kind of like a question, David, about how do you sell the innovative future of Twitter versus the traditional and legacy mindset of what people have always done? Yeah,
absolutely. And this is a question that will always be there, right? Is how should you talk about social as it compares to linear? The thing that we talk about almost always, and if you ask our sales team to run you through the full narrative, Twitter is likely the most receptive place you're ever going to find your audience, especially as it relates to real content in real time. Twitter thrives in a real-time environment, and we know that people engage when an event or a thing is happening anywhere else. And that doesn't mean they're not watching something on TV. It means usually they're watching something on TV and also on Twitter at the same time, looking to engage with that content even more. So Twitter is an extension to the linear. It's not a competitor to linear at all from our perspective. And so I would answer this question as twofold. Key points to share are one, Twitter, like any other social platform, is an extension of what we're doing for our main components. And here's how it differentiates, here's how it adds to the offering. More people talking about an event, a more receptive audience than otherwise would be. And third, I don't want to say most importantly, but definitely important, is a new and different audience. There are users of all of our platforms, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Snap, TikTok, whatever, that are different than who you're reaching on linear. And there's always going to be overlap, of course, but there's oftentimes going to be incredible amounts of users who are separated from a consistent viewing perspective. So you're reaching a new and different audience. From the true ads perspective, though, the biggest thing, instead of targeting on Nielsen ratings and total eyeballs, Twitter's ad system is a master at targeting. Targeting like-minded followers, meaning if you want to target an account that is similar to yours from a competitor's landscape, right? If you want accounts that are within your ecosystem and only reach followers there, if you only want to reach followers who follow or only want to reach users who follow these 3 accounts on the East Coast, there's amazing abilities to target specific messages to specific users and control content that way. I personally don't sit on the ad side, so I'm not the best one to advise on some of those things, but the unique targeting powers of Twitter is a huge differential. And if I'm a brand looking to reach specific or new individuals, that's a big one.
Is Twitter Amplify open for colleges?
The Twitter Amplify program, and so let me clarify a couple things, because the term that we've used for this program has changed numerous times. So Amplify is kind of the original part of the program that described how to get pre-roll in front of video. There are 2 components of what we call now sponsorships, which has replaced the word Amplify. We have in-stream sponsorships, which are, if you are a league or a network who has rights to a specific subset of content at a premium kind of component. So think NFL highlights. If you're the NFL, you have a ton of NFL highlights. You can we work with the NFL, Twitter and the NFL work together on a preset package of content that we're taking to market to advertisers. That program requires contracts. It requires a bunch of setup. It requires a lot of things. So that component of kind of the one-to-one model of a specific group of content to a specific advertiser is not going to be open to colleges. What is going to be open to colleges is what we call our in-stream video ads program, which is our kind of marketplace video monetization program, where all you have to do is check a button. I want to monetize this video. You tag your account on 8 different things. So in your case, on this call is going to be sports, not news, entertainment, not lifestyle, it'd be sports. So that way you're opting your video into a sports video marketplace. An advertiser on the back end comes to Twitter and says, I just want to buy videos related to sports. Boom, now we have a match. So there's no one-to-one direction of advertiser and content. It's more in a pooled sense. So you won't know the advertisers who are running on your content. There are, of course, ways to blacklist certain categories, i.e. alcohol or gaming or gambling, relevant for this audience, or blacklist specific brands. So if you have a presenting sponsor at your school, your stadium, your sport, whatever, you can protect those competitors of those brands. But other than that, it's kind of like a blind match and blind association. It's a super easy way. Accounts do have to be reviewed and whitelisted to be part of the program. And there is a video posting threshold. So think about it for your main athletics account and some of your stronger sports versus all of your sport accounts. But if you send me an email, and I'll put my email up here, send me an email. We're happy to put programs in for review and kind of see if they get approved. And from there, you'll have full reins to use that program.
So to recap, I see a couple of athletic directors and assistant athletic directors in here. If they want to start driving revenue through Twitter pre-roll, they should reach out to you and they can get the process started. And it is available. There are guardrails that they can put in place in terms of blacklisting specific categories, as well as any potential competitors to official sponsors that they currently have.
Yep, and there's obviously, rights complications in college that you all are way more privy to than even I am. So the content that you put into this program may be limited, but we leave that up to you all to make sure it's content that you do have the rights to monetize. So keep that in mind as well. But yes, there are some guardrails, but we're happy to kind of get as many of you in the program as you want. It's a volume game program, meaning the more you put in, the more money you're make. It's not built for one video to make a whole big sum of money. It's really kind of meant as an always-on cumulative effect, but that cumulative effect can add up and has done wonders for a lot of teams, both in the college and the pro space.
Could schools potentially bring their own sponsors to the table with Twitter and say that there's a 6-second or 15-second ad that they want to run on targeted pieces of content? Could they syndicate that through Twitter?
Not at the moment, and that's really goes back to the kind of example A of sponsorship I talked about, where to do a one-to-one on Twitter, there is actually a video agreement that has to be signed, a more direct kind of involvement between our sales team and you all, and that from a scale perspective is something we can't do right now, and is fairly limited. With that being said, it's something we know is of interest, and we've been working on potential solutions, but at the moment, there isn't a seamless way for you to bring an advertiser to the table and kind of input them into the system in that way.
Great. Well, David, thank you so much. Appreciate the time. And everyone, thank you for joining as well. Please share your Twitter accounts in the chat, and Nikki is going to drop in a Google Doc for everyone to kind of collaborate and follow each other. Our next session is on Tuesday with Duncan Boone. He's going to be running an After Effects session to show you how he treated some of the videos this past season, adding fire, adding rocket ships to Tyreek Hill for an in-game highlight. Again, thanks, David. Appreciate it. Make sure to email David if you have any questions, need to get whitelisted, need any support from his end.
Yeah, thanks everyone.